everyone? My name is Jemiah McKinney, or you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. Let me talk about Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles right here. Now, I still firmly believe that Carson Wentz still has a lot to prove. I don't think he's earned all the stripes that he needs to earn, at least in my grade book, okay? And I'll tell you guys why. I acknowledge that Carson Wentz is one of the 6 best quarterbacks in all football. I think the only quarterbacks I would honestly take over Carson Wentz for this upcoming season are Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Deshaun Watson, and that's in no particular order. I just think that those 5 quarterbacks are a little bit better than Wentz right now, and he could actually pass those guys eventually, in my opinion. And I acknowledge that Carson Wentz had an excellent season. This past season, Carson Wentz was the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 4,000 yards with no wide receiver accumulating 500 yards during the season. That is very impressive, no doubt about it. And guess what? Carson Wentz, he led his team to the playoffs when they were down in the water. He won 4 straight games. But am I going to give Carson Wentz this big time extra credit for beating the NFC East opponents? The worst division in football? No, I can't do that. Going to overtime with the Giants? Barely squeaking by the struggling Redskins last year, who picked number 2 overall in the draft? The Dallas Cowboys game was a great win, I'll give you that. And then you beat the Giants, but the point I'm trying to make is that Carson Wentz would have not made the playoffs if he was in any other division. And I just want to get Carson Wentz's greatness a little bit more often and on a more consistent basis. Like, for example, why did Carson Wentz not keep that same energy versus the Minnesota Vikings when he got blown out this year? Why didn't he keep that same energy at home versus the New England Patriots last year? Why couldn't he beat the Seattle Seahawks in the regular season at home? Why did he lose to the Miami Dolphins, who were not a great football team last year? And this narrative that Carson Wentz has absolutely been given no help throughout his entire career, it's false. This narrative that Carson Wentz has absolutely no help is false. The Philadelphia Eagles, throughout his entire career, have given him above average tight ends, above average running backs, some very good offensive lines, and we can talk about his lack of wide receiver help last year, but when Alshon Jeffrey is healthy, he's one of the better wide receivers in all of football. When Deshaun Jackson is healthy, he's one of the better deep threats in all of football. And Alshon Jeffrey, he has declined a little bit the last couple years, but when Carson Wentz, first got Alshon Jeffrey, that guy was a beast. When Torrey Smith was on the Philadelphia Eagles during their Super Bowl run, he was a good player. And how can you tell me Carson Wentz has virtually had no help throughout his entire career when his backup quarterback won the Super Bowl? What does that mean, people? Carson Wentz was on the most stacked team in the NFL. If your backup quarterback can win the Super Bowl and can win games just like you, that means you're on a pretty darn good football team. I know Carson Wentz is very talented, but we have to ask ourselves this question. How valuable was Carson Wentz that year when his backup quarterback won the Eagles a Super Bowl? Think about that, guys. And by the way, there are no more excuses for Carson Wentz, point blank period. He absolutely has to win the Philadelphia Eagles another Super Bowl, or else his career, in my opinion, is a waste. And I will tell you why that is. I firmly believe that Nick Foles is the perfect fit for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's perfect for the city, he's perfect for their offense, and he is perfect for their coaching staff. And I do firmly believe that the Philadelphia Eagles could have won another Super Bowl or 2 if they kept Nick Foles. I don't know if the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be guaranteed to win another Super Bowl with Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback. Now, before you start bashing me, I don't care what Nick Foles did with the Rams. I don't care what he did with the Chiefs. I don't care about his bad stint with the Jaguars. let's talk about what he did in Philadelphia when he had the perfect team around his skill set. When he was the guy that was winning those playoff games and in those big moments, and when he was the guy that beat Brady in the Super Bowl. Let's talk about that. Let me compare how the Eagles looked with Nick Foles as their starting quarterback the last couple years, and let's compare it to Carson Wentz. I included the playoffs when I did this little study right here. So the Philadelphia Eagles record with Nick Foles from 2017 to 2018, the time in which he was actually there, when he got a chance to start and play games, including the playoffs, the Philadelphia Eagles were 10-3. They had a 77% winning percentage. Okay, that's good for roughly about 12 to 13 wins a season if you just average things out. And I took out Carson Wentz's rookie season when I evaluated things, because I realized that he didn't have the same team that he had his sophomore season as opposed to his rookie season. And let's be real, rookie quarterbacks are going to struggle. The leap from college to the NFL is a big jump, and Carson Wentz was learning the position. He's trying to get his feet wet. So I took out Carson Wentz's rookie year. But ever since Carson Wentz's rookie year, he's 25-16 as a starter with a 61% winning percentage, which is good for around about 10 wins in an NFL season. But last year, Carson Wentz, not this past year, but in 2018, he was below 500. And Carson Wentz beat up on the NFC least this past year to get into the playoffs. Nick Foles, when Carson Wentz went below 500 in 2018, you know who saved his butt? Oh yeah, it was Nick Foles. And he didn't have to beat Dwayne Haskins, who was a struggling rookie quarterback. He didn't have to beat Daniel Jones, who was a rookie quarterback last year. He didn't have to beat Dak Prescott, who to me is somewhat of an overrated quarterback based on how the Dallas Cowboy fans rate him in the first place. Carson Wentz had to beat Deshaun Watson, one of the 5 best quarterbacks in all football. He had to beat Jared Goff on the road, a guy that's been to a Super Bowl the last couple years. He had to beat the Redskins, who I admit at the time, they were not all that great, but it's still a division opponent right there. And Nick Foles is still 31 years old. So what does that tell you? I believe that Nick Foles has at least 4 to 5, 6 good years of football left in him. So that window to win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles is going to be open if you keep him. And I do firmly believe that if the Philadelphia Eagles traded Carson Wentz, it would have not been a bad move at all. Think about it. Philadelphia Eagles fans wanted Jalen Ramsey. They've wanted Jadeveon Clowney. They've wanted all these they want Jamal Adams right now. They wanted all these big name players, recently, but they haven't been able to get them because of their cap situation at times. If you traded away Carson Wentz, you would have gotten a king's ransom for him. A big, strong-arm quarterback in the middle of their prime. Yeah, you can trade away that guy. You can get a Jalen Ramsey type player. You can get more great wide receivers, which Philadelphia Eagles fans have been complaining about. You can improve your secondary. Not to mention not Carson Wentz. Not to mention Nick Foles. He's a much cheaper option at the quarterback position. He's not going to cost you a bunch of money because his talent does not warrant the big-time salary that Carson Wentz's talent warrants. You're going to be able to retain more players. You can be more flexible in free agency. And I believe that Nick Foles has that it factor. What is the it factor? It means in big games, you're going to show up and shine the brightest in the biggest moments. Under pressure, you tend to get better. And Nick Foles may not be the same quarterback that Carson Wentz is during the regular season, even though when Carson Wentz and Nick Foles have been given the same situations and rosters, over the last couple of years, Nick Foles wins about 77% of his games, and Carson Wentz wins about 60% of the games. Just throwing that out there, I always have thought that Eli Manning is a much more better quarterback as far as all-time quarterbacks go than most people give him credit for, simply because in the playoffs, he has that it factor. He plays like a top 3 quarterback when it comes to the playoffs. Nick Foles, in the playoffs, he beat Matt Ryan, a former league MVP. He shredded the Vikings defense. He destroyed them. He beat Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, in the playoffs. On the road versus the Chicago Bears with that stacked defense led by Khalil Mack. He got a W. And if it were not for an Alshon Jeffrey drop in New Orleans right when the Eagles were looking to drive down the football field with about a minute left to go in the game, they could have won the game versus Drew Brees on the road in New Orleans. And the point I'm trying to make is that I know that Nick Foles can win a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know that Carson Wentz is talented, but I don't know if Carson Wentz has that it factor. Also, not to mention, Nick Foles has proven to be a more durable quarterback at this point in his career than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, multiple surgeries, always having nagging injuries. Outside of his injury, with the Jaguars this past season, Nick Foles has been a more durable quarterback for most of his career than Carson Wentz. I'm just saying, man, and I know that Nick Foles is a cheaper option. I know what I'm going to get. I know he's going to stay healthy, and I know that Nick Foles in those big games has the it factor. Carson Wentz, when he gets to the playoffs, he can't stay healthy. Now, part of that's not his fault because Jadeveon Clowney just bumped him upside the head, which is unfair to judge Carson Wentz. So we're going to see what Carson Wentz brings to the table. Do I believe Carson Wentz can win the Eagles a Super Bowl? Absolutely. Carson Wentz is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the entire NFL. But am I going to guarantee it? I don't know. And I do believe that if I was the general manager, I would have traded away Carson Wentz for Nick Foles and got a king's ransom and kept it a pushing and allowed my salary cap to be a lot more flexible because I know what I'm going to get. I don't care what Nick Foles did elsewhere. I care about what he did in Philadelphia. And honestly, Carson Wentz, you were the number 2 overall pick. The Eagles moved on from a Super Bowl winning quarterback to give you the keys to the car. And I hope you don't wreck it, because if Carson Wentz does not win the Eagles a Super Bowl before his career is over, it's a disappointment, because I believe that the Eagles would have found a way to win another ring with Nick Foles. That is my honest opinion. I think that Carson Wentz can definitely win the Eagles a Super Bowl, but only time will tell. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.